So
Great.
this is going to be a lot more interactive and a lot more discussion kind of compared to the other ones, which is great. We're going to start off today. We're talking about servant leadership. So just to give you a little bit of background on myself, I've been coaching volleyball forever, I feel like, which is really not that long. It's been about 8 years. And I coached competitively, and I also coach rec. So leadership is kind of my thing and something that's important to me. Today we're going to talk about servant leadership. We decided to start this off because St. Mary's is really a servant leadership-based campus. So it's just a really great topic, and I think as well, something I'll emphasize at the end is that the millennial generation, or Generation Y, I believe, is one that's a little bit more focused on servant leadership and value-based leadership. So just to give you a little rundown, some of you are new. This is the NAGEM Center. We had an awesome session last week with Maggie on design thinking, and then next week we have one with Madi on mind mapping, so definitely come to that too. So we're going to start off right away with what is servant leadership. So I stole this from Merriam-Webster. Don't tell them. But this is what I have when I was looking. So the definition of a servant is one that serves others, a public servant, especially one that performs duties about the person or home of a master or personal employer. Then when I was looking up leadership, that brought me to leading or lead, to guide on a way, especially by going in advance. So those are kind of the literal definitions of servant leadership. I think that there are a lot of misconceptions with servant leadership, and a lot of people get turned off by what servant leadership is. So we're going to actually talk about what is servant leadership. So what is it to you? This is the interactive part. So if you want to raise your hand or jump up, what is it to you?
Someone, no, go ahead.
Try to be the head of your team, like trying to make your teammates learn how to interact better with your team itself and become better. I don't know.
Okay, no, that's good.
I think, yeah, like serve your followers as well as lead them and kind of show them, lead by example as well with service.
Okay, so what would be service, I think, to you? What would be a specific example? Don't all go at once.
Like teaching somebody how to do something,
Teaching, how teaching? Telling or showing? Or?
showing, figuring out how they learn best, and showing them how to do what
Okay,
you're trying to accomplish.
cool. Anybody else on what servant leadership is to you?
So you can say that a servant leader is someone who leads by promoting wellness and professional, personal development to his team and to the people who serve him. So it's more of like leading with a common good aspect and, you know, not metaphor, concept in mind, instead of just leading for me, for my advancement. So it's everyone.
That's awesome. So I think that being here at St. Mary's, and I think all of us are tied into St. Mary's somehow, so we're all, we come from the background of kind of this being instilled, even if you don't really believe this, you kind of see it all over. I mean, the business school is a good example because the mission is sitting right there when you walk in, and maybe you don't pay attention, but I'm sure one day you've seen, and that kind of gets embedded into you. And I think that St. Mary's does a really good job of really teaching these values, so I don't think anybody in this room really would maybe have any misconceptions or not agree with servant leadership. But if you do or don't, and that's fine if you do or don't, then what would maybe some of those misconceptions be about servant leadership? What would make you not want to be a servant leader?
When they see that, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, yeah, being a boss all the time, like maybe not having a free time and just knowing they have to be on top of everything all the time.
Okay.
I mean,
People misconstrue the meaning of servant leadership with charity.
Okay. So what would
which
be
is not
charity
the case.
in
Charity,
this case with an employee?
not with an employee, but like in the community. So you can be a servant
Okay.
leader at your job,
Gotcha.
not engaging in the community per se directly,
Okay.
right?
Yeah. Cool. Anybody else? Misconceptions?
I don't know, maybe like as far as a hierarchy or the relationship might feel not a little more construed because you're not an authoritarian leader. You're more compassionate, and maybe the boundaries get blurred a little bit more.
Gotcha.
I have an example. I know many of you have been to Paula Gold Williams' speeches or talks, and whenever she puts up a PowerPoint, and she's the CEO of CPS Energy, for those that don't know her, and she always puts in her presentations how she likes to lead by an inverted pyramid, and she is in the bottom, and she serves like all the way up, and she puts her employees right on top, and she puts herself at last, and that's a really great example of a servant leader.
Yeah, definitely. I love Paula Gold Williams. She's awesome. Anything else on misconceptions that you guys feel? Okay. So to me, I think all of those were awesome points. I think one of the biggest misconceptions that I've seen from my experience kind of in the coaching world is, I mean, this comes down to how we treat our kids. And some people don't want to build relationships with their kids or with their employees, and that's really important. And sometimes people will say, well, you need to serve your kids, and they say, no. This isn't like, they're here to do their job and that's it. But especially like I had mentioned earlier with this millennial generation coming up, it's a lot more about building that relationship and serving your kids. So we're going to move forward. We're going to practice servant leadership live. So if everybody could stand up, we're going to actually move to the middle. So we're going to practice being a manager versus an employee, or a boss versus an employee. So you're going to be with your group. I highly suggest, I know a lot of you guys know each other. You probably want to know everybody's names. That's the only hint that I am going to give you. So who wants to be the manager first? Raise your hand on both teams. We'll start. The other 4 of you are going to have your eyes closed. So the way that I present a drill to my kids is I'm going to say this is the goal of the drill. So the goal of this exercise right now is to not run into the wall or bump into another person or bump into any of the furniture. The catch is your eyes are closed the whole time, and you have to constantly keep moving. You can't stop. So you're constantly, you can't just stay there. You have to be moving. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close them. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Last managers, raise your hand. Okay, you guys picked to go last, so lucky you. So I want you two to go over there. Go. This was an exercise that kind of was a metaphor for servant leadership. And what I like about it too is it's different things. So chaos is great, right? I mean, as leaders, as managers, as anything, as a mom, as a dad, you're going to have chaos in your life. And I think that all of you guys dealt with that. And silly things from like counting down fast, or then now moving you guys to the end. I think Mr. John is your name, right?
Yes.
So he, I think, rocked it, and you did a really good job of staying calm the whole time and bringing your team in. That was really good. And then, I mean, you did it too, but it just took you a little bit. It was good. So, like, I think that that was good stuff. So let's talk about right now, how did you feel as an employee with your eyes closed?
Dazed and confused.
Scared.
Uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable.
Underpaid.
Underpaid. Well, we have salsa.
I couldn't hold it more than
I actually
5 seconds.
felt that I could trust and let go and just relax and not having to worry about anything else and just listen to what's being directed.
That's awesome. So did you guys do a good job of using each other's names? Did you, did you feel more trust with different people? Did maybe somebody not do as good of a
I
job?
think as we went along the exercise, I think we all learned as through each of the different experiences, and that helped us to get much better each and every time.
Okay, cool. That's awesome. That's a positive one. So how did you feel Especially, I want to hear from you two. You have to speak because you guys were the one with the chaos.
Well, I felt very, very fortunate and lucky that I got to see first, because if I would have been, like, I would have been a little bit more panicked, but the fact that I got to see, like, oh, try it this way, and then when we did the circles, we were just doing circles, I thought, oh, this is perfect, but then I started getting dizzy, I was like, this is not.
Yeah.
And then I was like, what else can we do? And then somebody said, go back in, and I was like, oh, wow, like, it was interesting to see that it was a better way, and I got to learn that from somebody else, and then when it came my turn, I was like, yeah.
That's awesome.
So I benefited from that.
That's cool. That's really good perspective. Your turn.
I felt that because I had done it before, I knew what to do and what not to do, and I knew what was missing when I didn't have my eyes open. So I knew in my head how I wanted the instructions to be delivered. So I thought that was easier with Lucia and Otto than my translation.
That's my employee.
Yeah.
But it's good to experience it first, because then you know how to lead properly, and hopefully the ones that had their eyes closed didn't feel as dizzy as me. They were doing it the first time.
Cool. Good. So let's. The first one was you, Norma, right, and Madi. So what were your perspectives then, being first?
From manager,
Yes.
for me, honestly, it was unknown territory. So trying to figure out what's going to work in a very short amount of time and being under pressure to try to figure that out. So I think that also was something new. And then obviously you do have, you run into a bit of a stress situation because you do have people depending on you and looking to you to lead them and give them direction, and you may not have that reactive time that you need. So it definitely was a bit stressful. So
Stress is good.
Nice experience.
Good.
It was hard because none of my group have ever done this before, so it was a new experience, and I didn't know how each and every one of them will react to like the activity, or if they're gonna start running. I didn't know if they would run or they would walk or they would crawl. So I was just didn't know how they were going to react. So that was kind of, well, I don't know that.
Okay. Cool. Anybody else? Any feelings on managing?
Well, I think I learned from the first and the second, at least of the location. I kind of predicted that I might see it the first time, that it was already crowded with both teams in the same area, and just it was impossible to walk. Then the second one, they spread out more. Then when it was my turn, I saw that it will be easier to control my employees being just in the little circle itself. I mean, if you look at it that way, like just by location and stuff, like you kind of learn by already looking at what happened before. So it was kind of an advantage.
Good. And I think too, when you were going, that was when your group was over there or over here. There was a time when both of the groups split and you just kind of hung out there, which is then why I moved you back to the middle, because it was easy, right? Like you guys were just doing this, which is awesome. That's a great innovative way of thinking. And you guys made the goal happen. When you got presented with another challenge, you guys did a really good job. Like I said, especially, no offense, he stayed really calm and got your people in, and you guys did too. I mean, everybody worked together kind of to make that happen.
Another thing was that I made my group like to hold their shoulders because that was an easier way.
Right.
But then when you said no, that was like another challenge that we
Yeah,
had
it's like
to
in the middle of it, it's like,
yeah. And to try to figure out another
right
way
away.
to do it was
Whenever he's still moving,
Yeah.
and pieces don't stop.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Well, it's always good to know how to manage chaos, especially as leaders. I mean, just like in anything, and we'll continue talking as these sessions continue. Chaos is good to practice, and you can never really practice it a lot. So in situations like these, it's nice to kind of figure out how to manage that. And every time that I start a season with a team or with a group of people that I'm working with, somehow, some way, my catchphrase is successful people are comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I think that this was a fun but uncomfortable exercise, so hopefully you learn kind of something like that. So for me, this relates to servant leadership as you are serving your employees, right? You're trying to make sure that they don't crash, they don't run into anyone, they don't have to drink the salsa because they lost, like stuff like that translates into taking care of your employees, right? So to me, we're gonna reflect again on the next one, but did this change anyone's definition of servant leadership to what they had maybe? Or maybe you saw a different point that you didn't really think of? Just open-ended.
The same type of attention to them as you have to be understandable as like an employee as well, that, you know, time is delegated. It's very
Yeah,
complex.
definitely.
Another thing is that each leader leads in their own way. Like everybody has a way of leading, and by the exercise, each and every one of us like took a different approach to it, and everyone led a different way. So I think that servant leaders also, they don't lead according to their expectations, but what makes them feel better and what makes their employees feel better.
Yeah, definitely, and tack onto that, I think as well, everybody followed differently too, and you can see this was like a literal sense. So some people literally just were doing this over and over again, some people were changing it up, some people were spinning in circles, some continued walking, so I think that that's a great way of noticing as well, just like leaders are different, followers are as well, and great leaders know when to follow and how kind of to follow to help kind of their boss out by also it benefiting you, if that makes sense. So last one, we're gonna go to, so we talked about the new servant leadership definition. I think you guys already had a great answers when we started this off, but I hope you saw a couple of different points. Building relationships is really important. I've met people, I've met coaches, I've met managers in the past who say, no, I don't need to build a relationship with my employees, and I think that if you'd like to do that, you can, but especially in this day and age, it's a little bit more important to build those relationships, and I'm not saying to be all buddy-buddy with them, but how many times do you go a week and have lunch maybe with your teammates, employees, classmates, or with your boss? How often do you ask how their day's going? Those little things are really important in building relationships, and it's important to kind of know about the people you are working with, working for, and kind of all of the above. Respect, loyalty, and influence, and Norma had said that. She really trusted some of her people or all of her people, which is awesome. I think that those three qualities, I mean, there's so many important things in leadership, but it's important to get your employees to respect you. You can be feared, but you can also be respected. You can be buddy-buddy, but you can be respected. Loyalty is something that's so important that typically takes time and time and time to grow and can kind of be shattered in an instant, so you want to stay away from those. So I would take that as an example. Maybe we were going and you bumped into a wall when Rosanna was your leader. You kind of lost your trust a little bit, right, for her?
Yeah.
Because then you're like, oh no, I'm gonna hit it again. But the same thing in life, like if your boss maybe isn't having a good day and doesn't want to take care of you or doesn't want to hear your kind of story or what's going on, and they typically do, I mean, that's something that we need to think about, like, okay, like that didn't make them feel great, and sometimes it just happens. And then the last thing, influence in that, I think that I was in my class this year and they said something really well. Great leaders know how to influence, not manipulate. So there's a huge difference between those two. If you can influence people and serve people and kind of be a role model for them, then most of the time they follow you. The thing that we always used to say at the college I played for was monkey see, monkey do. So it's the same thing, right? If you're treating your employees with respect and you're loyal and you're being a good person, then chances are they're going to reflect in that as well and be a mirror kind of you. And then people are people. This is going to be the whole basis of all of these leadership series. People are people, and you're dealing with people. You're not dealing with robots. It is what it is. The millennial generation is changing the workforce a little bit, so just keep that in mind moving forward. Are there any other closing comments anybody wants to make, or you want salsa? Oh no.
So, sorry, this is a dumb question. I'm a visitor. I haven't been in St. Mary's for a number of years, but so at the beginning when it said servant leadership, I just connected it immediately with Marianist tradition. Is it
Yes.
that, or is this an industry-wide type of thing?
I would definitely say for me, I'm new here. I've been here 8 or 9 months. I was in athletics at first. That was something that we talked about, but it was through the Marianist tradition. So I think that it is through kind of the industry here. I think it can be carried out into the other companies that St. Mary's touches as well. I think it's just something that a lot of people talk about all the time. And then we do have the brothers, of course, on campus, and they're always around. And you can go to community service, and we just had a continuing heritage event on campus. So I think they do a really good job of spreading that out kind of through the school, not even so much if it's a religious view, it's more of how you are as a person. I know in our MBA program, we talk about that constantly.
I think it's also maybe, if I can say something, but I think it's servant leadership is mostly talking about the ethical issue. Like I look at it in a way that it doesn't matter if it's religion, culture, or anything. It's just being learning how to be respectful with employees and maybe put yourself. I mean, if you're the CEO, you have to put your feet on each employee, even with the janitor or something. But there are also like a need in the company. So being a servant leader, it's learning to do what, or like know the value of each employee in your company for you to be a good leader. That's how I see it. Applying the ethical code, or how do you say, aspect of it.
Yeah. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, cool. Good. Anything else, guys?
I think the emphasis on the building relationships is really good and kind of eye-opening, because when I look at that right there, it directly, like building relationships directly influences respect, loyalty, and influence. So when you have that, I feel like it's easier to gain people's respect, gain their loyalty,
Yeah, definitely.
provide influence.
It's very hard, I think. I mean, like sharing a personal story, right now I have one of the kids, I coach a 15s team, and I did not have a great weekend with her, and I think that she lost respect for me now, so now I have to try and build that back up. I'm going to talk with her today before practice, so I think it's so important, and as much as I maybe don't understand her character and understand her personality, that still doesn't mean that I need to disrespect her or do something to make her lose respect for me. So, I mean, we're not perfect people. Sometimes we don't show up right, but it's really important to emphasize that it's about you, but it's not about you, if that makes sense. Okay, guys. Well, that's the end for real. Thank you so much for coming.